La la la. La 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 la.
La 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 la.
You guys were close to harmonizing there.
I can't say.
What do you mean? We were harmonizing.
Hi, everybody. I'm Scott,
And I'm Luke.
And I'm Jonathan.
and this is the No Way to Hollywood podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Wait, this is the what? Oh, yeah. Thank you for joining us.
Wait, what? I don't
What
care.
did you think I said, Luke?
I was just being
He's being silly, but I still was confused. I was like, you know what the name of this podcast is?
Thanks for watching No Way to Hollywood.
No Way to Hollywood.
But all the ways to our hearts. Through that bell and subscription.
Oh, goodness. On this episode, we are going to talk about things that scare us in movies. Boo.
That is not one of the things that scares me in movies.
I don't want to talk about this. Okay, so Scott, what are we talking about regarding this? Like we're talking about the things that scare us in movies.
In movies. That is correct, Luke.
Okay.
Okay, let me set the stage a little bit for you. Throughout the history of making film, there is a genre called horror, which I have stayed away from as much as possible.
Pansy.
However,
I have also stayed away from horror as much as possible.
Double pansy.
However, there are certain techniques that filmmakers use that tend to scare me more than other techniques. And this is kind of riffing off an episode we had put out, I think, closer to the beginning of October, where we talked about disturbing movies. And, you know, there's a lot of things in movies that would be disturbing. I know we talked a lot about, like, Silence of the Lambs in particular in that episode. But honestly, there's a lot of the stuff in that movie that isn't all that scary to me. So for me, one of the techniques that filmmakers often use that I find the most scary is... Why did I tell you before the episode started?
That was pretty brilliant. You definitely have my scared face. Or at least my, stunned, what the flip?
And you just sat perfectly still in the middle of a jump scare from the other side of the friggin' couch.
I have a certain level of sense of safety, which maybe I shouldn't have. I don't know. Maybe jump scares aren't the thing that scares me the most. But what scares you?
So if you didn't see me completely jump out of the frame when Luke did that jump scare, you should have figured out that the thing I hate most and that scares me the most in movies is jump scares. I can think of a couple of moments in particular in movie-going experiences that I could share with you. And the first happens in Jurassic Park. There is a scene right as they're turning the power back on.
Wait, should we be doing this like an AA group? Like, hey Scott, can you tell us your name?
Hi, my name is Scott.
Hi, Scott.
Hi, Scott.
Hi, guys.
This is the No Way to Hollywood.
And I'm a recovering scaredy cat.
I'm a complete scaredy cat when it comes to jump scares. I'm not even close to recovering. There is a scene in Jurassic Park when they're turning the power back on. It's successful. The door closes behind her. There's this cage behind her, and the Velociraptor just pounces on that cage. And the first time I saw it in the theater, the people I was with thought I jumped about 2 rows in front of me and ended up in a completely different chair. So not my favorite thing in the world.
Wait, they thought that you did that, or you did do that?
Is this some sort of expression that was supposed to
like-
exaggerate
Yes.
what happened? Okay.
Oh.
Yes.
You didn't actually jump so far that you actually were in a different chair.
And
Not
squish
that
the
I'm
person
aware
who's-
of, but
Did you black out at that point in time? Is that why you're no longer aware?
is possible.
Well, thanks for sharing, Scott.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, well, honesty is a good thing.
Here's
Wait,
your
I don't-
pin.
Wait, I need another pin if you're going to give me a pin.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Just one.
The other thing that more recently happened is there was a movie called Annabelle that came out, which is very much a horror movie, and the entire trailer is just jam-packed full of jump scares. I was going to the movie so much, thank you, A-List, that I literally had to look down and even plug my ears so that I could not hear or see that trailer in any way, shape, or form. Don't like them. Don't like the jump scares.
Well, I mean, I don't like jump scares either. Like it's a cheap way of going about things. But I think what's
You're telling me that you don't love it when the filmmakers just turn the volume way up randomly and then something like pops out of a corner? You don't love that?
okay, but here's the thing. Like, it's not that random, right? Like, a jump scare actually isn't that effective if it just truly comes out of nowhere. Maybe it is. It worked on Scott. I don't know. No, but like the ones that I don't like are when it's like we're building to this moment, right? Like we're waiting. You're gonna open the box. You're gonna open the box, and you're gonna see what's inside this box. And we're gonna open in this box, and this box is gonna happen. And then this box, and then it's like and it was like, oh, it was actually a jumping bean. And you didn't need to be scared. And then you turn around and then the slasher like hits you in the face, right? Like it's always like, oh, it's not that to try and give you that cathartic, whatever experience. I hate all of that. Like I hate all of that. And I think one of the scenes that expresses that the most for me is in Signs when it's like, hey, there's the alien in the closet. I got him trapped in the pantry or whatever, in the kitchen, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, I'm gonna go check it out. And you're like, what? Okay, right? Like first you're like, I don't understand. And then he's like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna grab this knife. And you're like, now that sounds like a great idea. Walk into an unknown situation with a knife. So now you're like, wow, double stupid, right? And then it's like, well, I can't see him. And I like look under there and I just can't do it. So I'm gonna like, never mind, I'm not gonna do it. You're like, yeah, right, you aren't gonna, because we're still lingering here. And then he comes back with the knife and he slides it under the door. And when that like that for me was like, I just can't take this anymore. And then it does the jump scare with like the fingers and he chops it and he runs it. And like, honestly, when I watched that movie the first time, I had no idea whose fingers got chopped off. I was like, did the alien get the knife and chop off it? Like, I couldn't tell what happened because it was so like chaotic in my mind that I was just like, oh my goodness. And that stuff I hate.
Jumping bean in the box.
I think I meant like Jack in the Box,
okay.
But like
Yeah.
I was like, what other thing jumps up because my brain isn't working properly right now?
Yeah, that particular closet moment, or pantry moment is really good. It's really well done, and it is a lot of anticipation for it's good. It's good.
I just remember the fingers were cut off. That's literally all I remember. And Luke, I do believe they were the alien fingers.
They were, and now that
They're
I've seen the movie,
absolutely the alien fingers.
and now that I've seen it, like it's not nearly as kind of that, but like that first time, that was like, ugh, and that kind of stuff I really dislike. I do not like going through that, and that's why I think in general I dislike horror overall because most of it is build to get you to this moment, and I'm like, I do not enjoy this process. I don't enjoy that.
Well, okay. So what you're talking about is anticipation, and what you're talking about is jump scares. Is it also the anticipation with jump scares, or is it truly
Nope.
just?
It's truly just the jump scare, as
Just
evidenced
loud
by
noises.
Luke's jump scare earlier in this episode.
Sorry, Scott. Kinda.
So
No, you're not.
Sorry, not sorry.
so you startle, perhaps a little easy, and that's part of why you don't like it, and you don't like having to wait for the thing, which is really funny when you think about how much you don't like to wait for anything.
I don't like waiting for anything. Like, let's get there. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Because that's journey, and I hate going on a journey. I just want to be at the destination already. Like I'm done. Like what's this
I
journey?
don't believe that. You like watching movies. You can't watch a movie without going on a journey, right? What? Kiss, kiss, bang, bang.
Yeah, but each moment has to. Okay, yeah.
Well, that's a whole other discussion potentially for another time. What things do scare? So that's a thing that scares you. Is there something besides jump scares that scare you?
Well, associated with the waiting and the anticipation thing is any kind of torture sequence. Right, and I'm not, and I don't mean necessarily like while they're torturing someone, although that's not whatever. Like, let's just not bother. But like the building up to it, right? So like, Syriana, whatever the film, like there's a moment where it's like, hey, because you did whatever that we don't like, we're gonna break every single one of your fingers with a hammer, and you're like, oh, what the and like and then it's like, well, now we're gonna place your hand on the thing and we're gonna hold it there and then we're gonna pick up the hammer, and it's just like, holy crap, do not like, no likey, no likey. Same with like, I don't remember what film it was now, but there's a movie where it's like one of the big things is that like William Dafoe gets his fingers chopped off or whatever, and like that was one of the things I knew about this movie going into it. I was like, I don't want to see that. I do not want to see it. Do not need to see that at all. So like anything like that, don't like. No likey.
If it just randomly happens,
But if it's
without
just
you
right, that's
knowing,
fine. I have no problems. Like
it's the anticipation,
right.
So in a movie like Dale and Tucker, Tucker and Dale, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, when you don't know that they're about to run into the wood chipper, you're okay with that.
Right. Well, and that movie is designed very specifically differently, to do a certain thing for you. And I mean, there's stuff in that where it's like, not happy. But at the same time, the movie's so over the top ridiculous. But even in Tucker and Dale, like you get to the end and it's like the saw and like all that stuff, and it's just like, I don't, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for the thing to happen, and maybe that's more it.
Well,
The
that
waiting
becomes an action
for the
movie.
thing to happen is where I'm like, I don't need to wait for the thing to happen.
This is really funny to me that like your greatest fear in movies is waiting for things to happen. Is it? Would you say it's like your?
It might be his greatest fear in life.
It might be
in
his greatest.
general.
Question: is it your actual greatest fear, or do you think there might be other fear or things that are scary movies that might top it? And even if you can't place it, do you think there's maybe something else?
Well, sure, and that is something I just don't like about horror movies.
Sure,
I do
sure.
not enjoy that, and so it's not even necessarily fear per se. It's, I don't like this. I am not enjoying this. I am not having a good time. I feel icky. I don't want it. No,
Sure.
thank you. Right.
Sure.
So that, yeah. So that it's not even so much scare, right? So like, but building tenseness, I think, does scare me.
Yeah, tension. Yeah.
Yeah, but I also don't like it. So it's hard for me to know how much is fear and how much of it is just, I personally am not having a good time with this, like roller coasters. I do not like roller coasters. I do not like the way they make me feel, and I also feel terrified, right? But like, I don't know how to like,
coasters.
I don't know how to associate, like how much is what.
But you wouldn't like it if a roller coaster took you on a ride suddenly without you knowing.
Well, there was one roller coaster I
whatever.
rode where they literally stop you halfway through and then they shoot you again, and you're in this, you don't know it's coming thing.
Was that awful?
They shoot you?
Well, they
Forward. They rocket you forward. I know.
Yes.
I know, guys.
This is a horror movie now.
It was a delightful roller coaster, and I appreciated that one.
Well, this is not no way to Elitches. Let's talk about, I don't know. So you're talking about tension. You're talking about jump scares.
Mm-hmm. For you, Jonathan, what is the technique in done in horror movies that scares you the most?
Realization.
Okay, help me understand.
When so I really enjoy the the anthology series. Haunting of Hill House is the first season. Now the second season is Haunting of Bly Manor, which I haven't seen. But Haunting of Hill House has, I think, a very strong story and lots of good filmmaking going on, and lots of good stuff in that show. But one of
the lighting video essay below, I probably linked to it before.
yeah.
Do you need to write that down? Okay.
So what I like about that is they did this thing that was kind of a joke for them on set, but because the house is essentially haunted, whenever they have scenes in the house, there is sort of this running gag idea of how many standing ghosts can we get in here that you may or may not notice in the frame. So at any given time in a shot, at any moment in a scene that takes place in a particular home, day or night obviously being more common, in the background, out of focus, is a face. Like just sort of a pale figure in maybe period clothing of when the ghost should have died and, is still in that clothing. And it's one of those things where they don't bring attention to it. Now, there's a lot of them, and some of them are very obvious, I think. But it's really cool in how it adds to the mood of a place being haunted without spending all the time. Like, they do the true, like, let's focus on a ghost thing, a ghost coming around the house at night. They do that as well, and that is also scary and freaky, but there's something about being a viewer and recognizing what's happening and like realizing something is there that you didn't know was there, or you're having attention and you're not sure what's going to happen, but they don't do a jump scare. They don't pop out a clown or some crap. What they do is they even with silence, they'll just show you something, or something will suddenly move that you didn't know was going to move, right? Like it's camouflage and suddenly it moves. You're like, wait, that's not supposed to happen. It's a realization of the danger that the characters are in, or the world is actually this way. In fact, I think that a lot of filmmaking is actually revealing information in various ways over time, right? When you reveal information and how you reveal that information can be super important, or super like that kind of can make or break the story in a lot of cases, which is why some movies are all about the twist, where it's one reveal that you got to get to, right? Whereas I think the best movies are tension-filled and include constant revelations done in very good ways throughout the story. So in a horror film, whether it's something as subtle, or sometimes to some people not as subtle, but like something as subtle as you just don't realize that this is happening in this room, and suddenly you start to recognize that's a face, and you just get this chill down your spine. You're not like jumping out of your chair or getting freaked out in that way, which I don't particularly like that either. But I do love the sort of chill down your spine, revelation, realization of what's happening.
See, and that's funny because the realization is when I'm like, oh, finally, we're getting to something good. And it's the waiting for it where I'm like, can we just get there already? Like, I don't. And so there's also like, there's a short film. It was like The Thing in the creature, or The Thing in Jennifer's room, or something. You know, like it's a short film that's all about like, hey, there's something in this person's apartment, and the other person comes to like, hey, what's going on? Why are you sitting in your car? Well, there's this thing in there. Okay, well, let's go check it out. And then it's just like the slow like, where is the thing? And oh, you just saw a shadow, and blah blah. And like, for me, that is fascinating filmmaking. How do you make the door opening scary? How do you make this hallway scary? Like, how do you do it? And it like, that is so impressive to me. And I also hate it. Like, I hate it. But then once it's like, here's the thing, and we revealed it to you, you're like, oh, okay.
Well, I do think there's a difference between revealing, like, say, the monster, right? Like, okay, here's the monster. Now you see it, and it's coming after you. It becomes more of an action movie, like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. You're talking about like the Saw and stuff at the end. Well, it's an action movie at that point. It's like
Right.
it's a standoff and a fight, and I I enjoy an action movie, and so I'm down with it. But it's not really a horror movie or a scary movie or a tense movie at that point in many ways. And the ghost thing, like in Haunting of Hill House, the reveal of it is chilling, and it reveals what the environment these characters are in, but it doesn't suddenly change the story to be like, and now something is happening. It just means, no, there's something always happening here. This is the world these characters are in. At the same time, I do love it when it's like, and then reveal, yes, it does, when you have a certain revelations, it does mean that something is happening. And that intrigues me, of course, in the story of, okay, well, what's the next thing? I tend to like paranormal, ghost haunting, or alien, or like things where the rules or the creature or the entity is unknowable or hard to know, or you have to learn the rules of it, because it makes a mysterious setting where I have to be with the character, where I have to both realize what's happening, I have to pick up on the clues and learn what the whole situation is. And while I'm doing that, it's also scary because the stakes are high, because it's things I don't expect, because it's interesting to me in that way. So I kind of go through a thing where if it's a movie I'm going to generally go through, I'm very interested in a character's journey, or in even just like what's happening, that like what's their set of rules and stuff with this ghost, or I'm curious, and that kind of drives me forward, because every revelation that terrifies me is also exciting and also revealing information that I want to know, and makes things more interesting. And then it's also raising the stakes for the character of, okay, can the character figure it out? Can the character get out of this? Can the character do this thing? That's a smart decision. You should try to do that more, which is why slasher movies do almost nothing for me, where generally I'm not scared, and I'm usually just bored, because it's kind of okay, understandably, it's messed up. It's not cool. There's a guy with a knife coming after people. That sucks. I don't like that. But the guy's got rules. He can't go through a door it's locked unless he breaks the window or has a key or whatever, right? And there's ways to make that scary too. Absolutely. It's just that I'm not interested. I don't care. He's out to kill people. Why should I care?
So I mean, there's a couple movies that have kind of come to mind. First, about the reveal. What about like a classic like Hitchcock and Psycho? Like, is that? I mean, the reveal at the end is the, oh, oh.
Unfortunately, due to that movie being like 60, 70, whatever years old, I already knew how that movie was going to end. I knew that
I
that
did
was the
not.
big twist. So when I watched it, I the filmmaking is well done, but unfortunately, I lost out on every big twist in that story, including but not limited to the fact that a certain expectation you have at the beginning of the film is thwarted about 30 minutes into the film and just goes a completely different direction than you're expecting. And that's a huge deal, especially for that time period of filmmaking. And I already knew about that as well. So unfortunately, Psycho didn't play for me because some of that stuff didn't
That's sad.
didn't really sink in.
Because to me, that's the film that I first thought of when you mentioned a reveal. And I mean, I watched it, I believe, in one of my film classes somewhere along the way. Had no clue what was really going on. Just knew it was Hitchcock. And Hitchcock, I think, does. I mean, we talked about it in our previous episode. He does a great job of building tension.
And if I could just, I mean, I think we talked about this a little bit before, but if I would just mention with Hitchcock to do another film example of the kind of reveal that does work for me, and in part it also works because it works anytime, is The Birds. When the girl is at the school and she keeps noticing the birds doing whatever, and then she turns around and there's just all these birds on this play set behind her, and that's a reveal that's like I'm talking about it and I get a little bit of a chill.
Okay.
Psycho, I can talk about any of those reveals and be like, whatever. Like I don't care. It's whatever. It's just a deranged thing and it's clever in its time, but I don't care about that at all. So like signs in the cornfield with the leg, or the pantry, or like I love signs for a lot of those reveals and those moments. So anyway, just to be clarifying, it's a particular way, and that's where I guess I'm talking a lot, but Paranormal Activity.
Okay.
I never watched. I'm not really a big horror film guy, especially at that point. But I went to the theater and saw Paranormal Activity, and you've got your people who essentially say this movie is stupid because its doors moving and it's a bunch of nonsense and it's low budget, and I see right through it and think it's stupid and funny. And you got people like me who, because of the concept, are just bought in and start to really get like the door moving means something. Like why is the door scary? Because I understand that means something more than the door moving. I'm not thinking about how they made this movie. I'm thinking about why would that door move in this world at this time, right? Why would that happen? And that movie is essentially constantly, what's the rules? What's the reveal? How is this going to turn out? And that's why that film was very scary for me.
Okay. The other movie that popped in my head, I believe it's called The Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Yeah. John Carpenter's The Thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about it?
Well, that's got a lot of what I think you've been talking about in terms of revealing stuff along the way, and even at the end of the movie, not really being sure what's going on. And that kind of gave me the chill down my spine. That last look that they give, the last two characters. Oh yeah.
Where you don't know.
You don't know.
So I guess we're just gonna have to sit here then. Yeah. I like The Thing for its science fiction curiosity elements. The horror side the thing that got me in The Thing is the creature effects and designs. There are sequences in that film where there's body horror. There's a creature that's imitating people, and when it gets discovered, it freaks out and turns into weird alien creature things. And it's very gross and disturbing. And some sequences are high, like action-packed, terrifying because the creature effects still hold up after 50 years. It's really crazy. So that's more of what I remember about The Thing. But yes, the whole thing is about, can you figure out who's who? And that actually, sorry, again, another little tangent. I get tired of like, we're all clones and you don't know who's the clone or who's this person. I get tired of the who is this, because that's less interesting to me than the knowing who everybody is, but not knowing what something else completely otherworldly is.
Yeah. Interesting.
You have any thoughts over there, Luke?
Maybe.
Would you like to share them?
Want to reveal some of those?
I don't know. Body horror, like a lot of that stuff. I'm like, I know what you're trying to do, and so my brain's like, no, I don't want to do that. Whatever you're trying to do, I don't want to do that right now. So that stuff more just makes me peeved. Like, stop it. I see it. I get it. Okay, that's But I also dislike any kind of like gross, oh, what's that? Slither is like one of those like, and
I've never seen it.
and like it's supposed to be one of those like, this is pretty light, it's pretty comical, whatever, but it's also gross. And like I'm just like, that's just gross.
Yeah, I don't like gross.
I don't care that you're trying to be lighthearted about this. Like it's just gross. And that's same with torture and all that. So like anything that deals with like deforming and pain and like that, no thanks. Like just I don't like that. So body horror falls into that. But then like when it's like, hey, this person's like hanging off the bed, twisted, weird, and I'm just like, that's just like
Exorcism
of
Emily Rose,
right? Just like, and like that's obviously playing off of a bunch of other scenes like that. But like, but I know what you're trying to do.
But
so
why is that moment stick out? To me, it sticks out because this setup, right, is one way, and then the way they reveal it, then I think they do a loud noise, which again annoys me. But like the idea of being some girl's boyfriend, and you're trying to comfort her because she's having a really bad episode of depression or what you don't even know what, but you're just trying to like, and so you happen to fall asleep, and when you wake up, you don't like, where is she? And she's just on the floor in a very contorted position that's clearly like, being possessed or like. That is not cool. Like that's a reveal that freaks me the crap out, and is like, that's terrifying. And how do you solve this? So I mean that's what makes that work. I mean, just a person just getting into position, like contorting or like that can be creepy and stuff too. But just doing it for body stuff is like it's not the same.
It's not the same, and I will never be the same after this episode, thanks to Luke.
Best horror person ever, right here.
Wow.
Actually, we did shoot a horror film back in the day. No, I did when I was
did?
with my wife. We were back in college. We tried to make a little horror thing. I think I have it online, so I'll try and put a link down for that too. Is The Wrath of Fred, where we tried to take some of the
scary.
Yeah, we did. We tried to take some of like the things that we knew about and tried to put into practice, and we're a couple college kids who like tried to put something together in like an evening. So like whatever, but
that kind of reminds me of a movie I made in college with some guys. We had this film contest in my dorm, and they would give you the title of the film, and then you'd have 24 hours to make the film, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the title we were given was like Dr. Sexy Knickers or something like that. So we turned him into this killer on campus who was hunting down these people and just killing them. And we had lots of fun shooting people dying. It was entertaining.
Is that online?
I'll have to look it up. I don't know that it's online. I don't think it is. There are other things that I could give you a link to, but not horror.
Well, that doesn't do as much good for this episode.
No,
now,
it doesn't.
I haven't made a horror film. I should work on that.
I mean, it's okay. Horror is actually a really great thing to get into early because it's low budget.
Right.
You don't have to have good lighting. In fact, bad lighting actually often helps you. Right.
Yeah.
It can. Now, it also changes the quality of your film. So having good lighting can actually be really good. And if you can use it effectively, awesome sauce. But then you also have, cheaper effects that you can do, but still get kind of crazy stuff out of it. I've heard stories of, these, low budget horror filmmaker guys. And like one of them, he got like a cow tongue, like he got the whole cow tongue, right? And then he's like, so now I just need a girl who has like a giant mouth so I can stick it in and then we can rip it out and make it look like, they're ripping out her tongue. And these are the kinds of things that people do, like this is This is a side of horror
That's gross.
that I don't care for, and that's where horror is broken up into a whole bunch of stuff, right? Like you've got your slasher, your torture porn, which is even further than like no thank you, just awful. But then you'll go all the way through like supernatural, and then you got like the thriller, like what's gonna happen, and you've got you've got all these different kind of horror movies, and so the ones that I tend to like more than others are if they're making fun of tropes, a la like Cabin in the Woods, right? Where it's like we're gonna take what we're doing, but even there, that movie has stuff where I'm just like, I don't really like this right now, yeah. And then I didn't like it as much as other people who watched it with me, and they loved it, and I was like, okay, that's cool. But then I also like movies that are more on the like psychological thriller, like what's happening, like what's going on right now, and where are people with stuff, and how is this all fitting together. I enjoy that a lot more.
I do like a good psychological thriller.
And the thing is that psychological thriller starts blending into its own genre. It's outside of horror, right? But you can have some horror ones, right? Like, I don't know. And by and large, why I have avoided so much horror is, one, I tend to not enjoy it, and two, a lot of the stuff ends up being stupid. Like, just stupid. And, like, I watched Dark Water because I was like, I like Jennifer Connelly. I was like, this movie is so stupid. It's so stupid. And that happens too often. And so every once in a while, there'll be another horror movie that comes out. And I'm like, well, let's see what I'm missing. And I watch it, and I'm like, still not missing anything.
Yeah. How'd you feel about Haunting of Hill House? I made you watch some of those episodes.
Yeah, I enjoyed it overall. Yeah.
I mean, I think, there's definitely a lot of bad horror stuff out there. There's a lot of bad science fiction too for similar problems, because what's the big thing going on? Why are the aliens showing up? Why is this artifact here? What's going? It's because crystals made aliens. We are the sons of Mars.
No, don't go there.
But I've seen that movie like several times. Several of those movies. So yeah, science fiction can also be super disappointing, right? Because the premise is so much better than the answer or result or what we're getting at there, and if you don't at least have really good characters that are worth revisiting and going through their journey through it all, then you're really in trouble, because then it's just like, I'm just here for the concept, and the concept fell flat. But
then you can have so then this is interesting because it's making me think of like horror guys who go on and do other kinds of movies, right? Like you've got Sunshine, right, where it's like,
well, Sunshine is Danny Boyle, I think.
Okay.
Who did like Train Spotting and Slumdog Millionaire? Isn't there one of his films? Like, where are you going? Sorry.
But like you ultimately get to like kind of this horror.
Oh,
ending,
yeah,
right. Like it's a movie that's not horror that becomes horror, or you've got like Spider-Man 2, where it's like let's do the horror.
The horror sequence,
right?
A horror scene.
Yeah, but like and again, like people screaming and bloody and whatever, like I don't care. But you're doing it for a specific purpose, and that's cool.
Well, and with Sam Raimi, it works in that because he's a B movie filmmaker, and so he's like, I'm gonna play my B movie card here and make this villain extra villainous and really ham it up at the same time and have fun doing my horror thing, which I don't get to do in these movies very much.
And then I'm gonna go in and make excellent other stuff, and it'll be okay.
Right, and everything else is not this horror movie. Yeah.
Well, like we said, it's an entry point for people at times. So, on that note, gentlemen, whether it's a movie we talked about tonight or another movie that you can think of that scared you in some way, I'm just leaving it a little bit more open. What would you recommend to our viewers?
This is the worst part of the show. I have nothing to say to people. I'm sorry, audience. Let me think about this.
I mean, what would I recommend to any viewer to watch as a movie that scared me?
Yeah.
Man. I mean, I like the Haunting of Hill House show for sure. I mean, Paranormal Activity I also talked about because it scares me. But, I'll recommend what I've been basically pushing for us to watch at movie night, this upcoming Saturday, which is Signs. I think Signs is got a lot of humor, a lot of good values, and it's actually a pretty light film in a lot of ways, but it's got some scary, thrilling things if you're into it, which some people aren't, but I think it's well done, and it's got some really scary stuff going on, and I like it. I think it's a very tame entry point into scary horror-esque things.
Okay, well, bouncing off of Signs, anything by Hitchcock, because I think that Shyamalan really pulled from, especially The Birds, in making Signs, and he does a great job with it. So I would say go watch The Birds or anything by Hitchcock. Jonathan's like, The Birds isn't scary because it's a bunch of birds. But
Eventually, I'm just
Yeah.
like, I don't get it anymore.
right, but like I watched that movie alone on campus as a film student, and it freaked me out. Like I was like, it freaked me out. So, and yeah, I get it. It's birds. And like watching it with a group of people, you're like, okay, yeah, I guess it's just birds. But like watching it by myself on in an empty campus, like that was creepy. But yeah, Hitchcock, The Birds.
Yeah.
Watch anything by yourself. Hairspray, Greatest Showman. You might get scared.
You have to start looking into the void that is your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Talk about
okay.
psychological horror.
So if we're gonna go Hitchcock, I could certainly recommend Rear Window, which I think is probably one of my
That's a great movie.
favorite Hitchcock.
But
movies.
but I already took Hitchcock.
I haven't seen Rear Window yet.
I know. I still haven't shown it to him.
I need to see it.
It's
and
great.
Thankfully, I don't know much, so hopefully I can keep that
Don't
going.
spoil it for him. If you see him on the street, do not tell him the surprise ending.
You know who you are. Don't do it.
If you're gonna force me to pick something else, I mean, I could recommend a few things that actually scared me. And initially, I was actually gonna recommend Jurassic Park because there are a lot of elements of horror and thriller that are part of that movie, and yet at the same time, there's so many good uplifting moments in there as well. And there are people that die. Yeah,
Spoilers
but
for that lawyer.
you mean the guy that had to go to the bathroom?
Yes. Okay.
That's the best part of the movie.
That actually messed me up a
Anyways,
little bit when I was
so if
younger.
I'm not allowed to recommend a Hitchcock movie, go see Rear Window. Please do go see Jurassic Park. There are a lot of great things about it. It does use some of the horror genre while at the same time, in my opinion, being something better and transcending of that. So
I'm just curious. If you couldn't recommend Spielberg either, what would you do?
I would be off a deep end right now.
Okay.
On that note, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.
Hold on to your butts.
Oh my! Get out!
What? Are you
Get
kidding
out.
me right now?
Get out!
Talk
Leave.
about body horror.